So we started out in 2011 as a restaurant food delivery company. This was, as a group, we are total 5 founders. Sahil, Suraj and Mohit used to work at Bain and Company together, and while consulting for infra, pharma, private equity, they realized that there was a gap in the infrastructure space, and they were looking at various ideas. Happened to start a hyperlocal food delivery company in Gurgaon, and around June is when they started thinking about e-commerce. I got in touch. We sort of realized that food delivery, the scope of aggregation, the scope of scale up, the type of problems are not as complex and as interesting as what is available in the e-commerce space. So we decided to sort of look at e-commerce to, so since we were already doing delivery, there were these bikers who were idle in the afternoon hours because the peak orders would come in during lunch and dinner time. So we started using this idle capacity for e-commerce. Saw the growth within a month. Companies that started working with us, their volumes in the same geography, Gurgaon, tripled simply because the turnaround times for delivery went down from 2 to 3 days to less than 24 hours. So real-time visibility, timelines, cash management, returns management. These are some of the challenges that the e-commerce companies at the time were facing with the traditional partners like Blue Dart, Aramex, DTDC. The amount of time it would take to, once the cash is collected, the remittance would typically take about 30 days, which was a fairly, in terms of working capital, it was just way too much. What we did is we crashed these timelines first to 7 days, and today we remit within 48 hours of collecting the cash. Returns management, all these courier companies have the focus is to just go and deliver, but when a customer gets a defective product, how do you sort of manage the return flow, the timelines, the quality of the, if a phone is to be picked up, do you also pick up the battery, do you also pick up the cover, how do you sort of manage the entire return supply chain, bring in some amount of liability, some amount of service quality, a guaranteed timeline, because there are customers who would say, acha theek hai, you are here for the reverse pickup, so just take these shoes, they'll just remove the shoes and hand it over. You can't really accept in a open condition. So a lot of these problems we sort of try to structure them, build out different kind of infra, different kind of technology to solve these. In terms of the growth story, I came on board around September 2011. We had a field team of about 20 at the time. So there are a couple of lines missing over here. As we scaled up, we realized that the real challenge is not just delivery, but the entire supply chain, because as a customer, you are looking at the turnaround time from the time you place the order. So for example, we were working with India Times at the time, and they would typically take 3 to 7 days to ship a product. So even if we guarantee 24-hour delivery, it doesn't really help because your total turnaround time is 7 plus 1. I mean, every single day that you add to the delay in delivery typically increases your return rate by close to 1.5 to 2%. So effectively, that's a direct hit on your revenues. We realize that fulfillment is a service that there is a space for it, and traditionally all the existing companies in the warehousing space had a very warehousing mindset. The focus was to store, the approach to fast throughput, high throughput turnaround times of less than 6 hours, less than 2 hours. That focus was not there. Typically companies would come and, okay, I'll give you 48-hour turnaround times, but you will have to set up a dedicated space with me, you'll have to pay for a dedicated space, dedicated manpower, which is something that, yes, it was the traditional approach, but if a small seller, somebody who's selling 10 items a day, for him starting out with a OPEX of 30,000, 40,000 a month doesn't make sense. So we sort of realized that there is potential for an offering there. So we started with our first fulfillment center that's December 2011. While working with these companies, the Times Group saw strategic interest in us for the India Times, and we got our first round of funding. This was back in April 2012. The business case was that we will expand to 10 cities, set up 3 fulfillment centers. But thankfully, I mean, the moment we got this funding, we sort of hit the road, went out on a very aggressive expansion spree. Within 3 months, we were up to 25 cities, shipping close to 7,000 parcels a day. Thankfully, the growth in the e-commerce was, there was the only reason we continue to grow is because people were placing orders and there was a need for somebody to deliver fast. So the focus on service levels is where we were able to differentiate. The expansion continued. A year later, we raised our next round of funding from Nexus Venture Fund. Over here, again, the thesis that we had was that while delivery is a proven model, by that time we were already present in close to 40-45 cities. So there was no further question in terms of whether delivery can deliver. But to really take e-commerce to the next level, we needed to set up these fulfillment centers across the country. Because if you look at a typical e-commerce company, the unit economics of a standard order, you are effectively paying for fulfillment, you are paying for last mile delivery, and you are paying for the cash on delivery component. Now, last mile delivery can be split into first mile, line haul, last mile. First mile is the piece where I go and pick it up from a vendor or from your warehouse, bring it to my sorting facility, sort it, bag it, and then I hand it over to the line haul team, from where, if it is to be shipped across metros, across geography, you use air connections, or if it is a regional delivery, then you look at surface connection. So the cost difference between an air and surface is a significant cost difference. So that is the piece where we can actually reduce the cost significantly for an e-commerce company. Of course, you are adding the cost of additional inventory that you are holding. The thesis was that we'll set up these fulfillment centers all across the country, regional, and you store with us regionally and you ship regionally. So if an order is from Bangalore, you fulfill it from Bangalore. You don't really need to pay the air shipping from Delhi, which, for example, a Flipkart today has 4 large FCs: Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, Calcutta. But because the maximum storage is in Bangalore, the amount of air shipping that they do is significant. The next step after this was, again, at this point we were servicing close to 1,500 pin codes a day. India has 19,000 pin codes. So effectively, and India Post, for example, has 1.33 lakh post offices across the country. We were at 50 cities through 70 centers. So in terms of what we were doing, it was still an ant against an elephant. So what we wanted to get reach, so that the question that, why the reason these people would still continue to give shipments to First Flight, Blue Dart, these players, was that we did not have the reach. And for us to really create a stronghold and a market leadership, we needed to build the reach. So we continued further expansion into more cities, tier 2, tier 3 at this point, and we reached 150 cities in June 2014. After this, this was just June, and in October during Diwali we reached 1.5 lakh shipments a day. So that's the kind of growth we sort of been witnessing in this space. The real challenge is execution capability. That's where the big differentiator comes. What we do differently is, as a company, we built from scratch as a parcel delivery company. All the companies that exist in India in the logistics space, their focus was always documents, and the network was designed, the infrastructure, the mentality of the team on the ground was to prioritize documents, and therefore the problems of moving bulk across cities, aggregating, disaggregating, and then moving across cities was never a problem that these companies tried to solve using better infrastructure. So for example, the FedEx Super Hub has 300 miles of automated conveyor belts. In India, there is not a single facility today in any logistics company which has any motor driven conveyor belts. So, and I mean, the first conveyor belt in the world came up in 1975, right? So we are effectively 50 years behind, 40 years behind what the US did. So from 150 cities now, we continue to grow. Today we have about team size of about 6,000 on the field, and on-roll staff of close to 1,500, management staff of which includes management staff of close to 250. While that is how the logistics piece of the company has grown, we see ourselves as more of a e-commerce enabler rather than a pure play logistics company. And that is because if you look at the 5 of us, we come from primarily engineering and technology backgrounds. this is the typical need of this is a supply chain of a classic e-commerce company. There is core logistics, there is commerce services, and there is channel creation, channel integration. So today, this is something that this is the approach that we have been taking to build the next layer of services for the last couple of years. And at every layer, we have a solution present. So, for example, reverse logistics, we have a completely different team which is handling that, a completely different set of statuses, a very different flow to manage those orders. Replacement as a service. So we take a product and we bring a product back, the defective product back at the same time. Now that is something that is extremely valuable for OEMs. For I mean, you get these RMA companies who are bringing laptops, hard disks back to you. So as a service, if you can build that out, the kind of margins you can command for a service like that is phenomenal. In terms of current scale, so this is slightly dated. We have 4 fulfillment centers today, totaling about 1 lakh square feet of space. We are going live with 6 more fulfillment centers in the next 3 months. We've sort of finalized these facilities. This is another 500,000 of square feet space. This is actually, so if you look at the reason why, another reason why this fulfillment is needed is because there's a lot of challenges being faced by companies for moving goods between states. Sales tax bottleneck, I mean, this is, until there is clarity on GST, people have been talking about GST a lot for the past 3 to 4 years, but until there is any action, what you need is you need the ability to invoice locally and store locally. So
these fulfillment centers are basically the warehouses, right?
The warehouses, yes.
So we have got 4 of them right now.
And we are starting 6 more in the next 3 months.
Those are in all different states.
They're also, for example, UP and Bihar. These are challenging areas, so we're setting up them. The approach is to set them up in either challenging states or to set them up in demand centers. Supply centers. For example, Surat is a great cluster from where apparel moves out. Ludhiana is another cluster. So, or Jaipur is another cluster. So we sort of positioning them in a manner where these manufacturers who want to go online or who are currently selling through these different platforms of Flipkart and Snapdeal, they can store with us, and then we help them fulfill these orders through the use of technology and fast order processing.
So it is the marketplace platform that leases space in your
No.
Or it is the vendors
Can you
of the
just run
marketplace?
through one cycle how it works? Can you take one example?
Can I just finish the presentation and then that makes sense. So in terms of the so today 95% of our revenue comes from the express logistics, which is the transportation piece of the business. The fulfillment is something that is just taking off. I think with the current fulfillment centers are operating at 120% capacity. So I'll sort of elaborate more on the business, which is a more larger business. I can't really call it stable because the kind of growth. So distributed hub model. What happens over here is that a branch which does a pickup. Today, if you look at a traditional company, what they do, they pick up at different points. They bring it to a centralized hub in that city, and then they again send it back to delivery. So, for example, if a document originates from Deutsche Bank across the road for address to somebody over here, you will have that parcel go all the way to MIDC and then come back. So the amount of fuel and the amount of handling, amount of cost that you are incurring over there is just ridiculous. So by creating this distributed hub model, what we have done is, if something is close by, we directly send it to that point. What we are building is, we are building a unique capability to fulfill intra-city orders differently than intercity orders. Focus on technology. So this is something that I'll cover in the later section as well. But the key focus is, if you can track it, then you can automate it and iterate it, and then you can sort of reduce cost. We have pivoted our model at least 4 times in the last 3.5 years. So we are not comfortable saying that, okay, we have achieved a certain amount of market leadership and we will now just follow and reiterate the same model. Our focus is, if today it costs 130 rupees to fulfill and deliver a 1 kg parcel from point A to from a metro to metro in India, what you're looking at is, we want to bring it down to 60 rupees in 5 years time. Now we can continue to charge 130 rupees, but that doesn't enable a small seller to, if a small seller will be selling 100 orders a day 5 years from now we want him to be selling 1,000 orders. The focus is to really be the most efficient supply chain company. So I think this is something that I don't really need to elaborate much. E-commerce is growing at a very, very fast pace. We ourselves have grown 4x in the last year, 3.5x the year before. So we are actually looking at the delta is also sort of positive. 10x in the next 5 years, market total 55 billion at end of 2020, FY 2020 is the projection. Internet users will potentially double. All the new orders, the new growth is coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities, rural areas, northeast surprising. I mean, you look at the kind of order distribution, Lucknow does almost the same orders as an Ahmedabad, or Guwahati does more orders than an Ahmedabad, which is very, very interesting. The needs of the e-commerce industry are fairly different from a traditional courier client. They want seamless IT integration. As a customer, you want to really see where my package is, how soon is it getting to me. They want, so as I was talking about fulfillment, when I elaborate on the entire flow, by setting up these regional fulfillment centers, you don't want to operate them as independent entities. You want to create a virtual multi-warehouse facility wherein you say that, okay, as far as I am concerned, I have given you 10,000 mobile phones, and you may stock them wherever you want. This is my target cost of logistics, by picking the nearest warehouse, we fulfill the order and thereby reduce the cost. So being able to give that multi-warehouse view to a client. Centralized after sales service. So we also have an in-house, a fairly large call center, a customer support team, which is handling not just courier related or fulfillment related queries, but we also offer after sales retail support for some of the retail players. The way the distribution works, cash on delivery, point of sale using either a swipe card or a mobile wallet, verification of products as I explained earlier, and reverse pickup. The changes in warehousing, nobody is keen to really pay money for dedicated space. So, but if you offer them a variable pricing, saying that okay, if you ship 10 orders through me, you pay say 30 rupees per order. So effectively you are only paying 300 rupees. It's similar to what Amazon does with AWS, which is or the cloud. It's the real world version of the cloud computing in the digital space. Each picking, high speed processing. These are effectively why we call it an FC and we don't call it a warehouse. It's a fulfillment center somewhere. You're just trying to the objective is to fulfill as fast as possible. There is a 9-layer technology stack that a typical e-commerce company has. So some companies may have 5 of those, some companies may have 6 of those, somebody may have 8 of those. What we offer is the ability to just pick and choose core services, and you can just go live in an instant. So that's where there is a new business line that we started about 8 months ago. We call it omni-channel. It's the global terminology that we follow. Effectively, what we do is, if there is a brick and mortar company, say a Reebok or a Nike, or a apparel company like a major brands who wants to go online, but currently does not have a dedicated team or a dedicated setup or a website. So we can come in and within 2 months we can sort of go live, integrate with their existing supply chain. We provide the ability to effectively ship through their stores, move inventory from store to store, move inventory from warehouse to store, warehouse to customer. So you can do a lot of custom supply chain flows and create a hybrid channel. Integrate. So there are 2 ways to do e-commerce, right? You can set up a dedicated separate e-commerce channel, or if you already spent a significant amount of investment setting up a supply chain in the real world, you just use technology to enhance it. In terms of what are our growth plans for the next 1 year, we intend to reach 600 cities. So the e-commerce growth story is fairly clear. So based on that, and even the big billion day, the real challenge is logistics is the only bottleneck. There is demand, there is enough funding available for the big 2-3 players. Get to 600 cities, set up 29 FCs, approximately 1 in each state, set up dedicated own line haul or a fleet, either through partners or if required by our own vehicles. We are also looking at cross-border very aggressively, because more than 80% of the orders which go to the Northeast today are actually from companies based in the UK rather than in India. So given those kind of numbers, cross-border, it's great revenue potential. To do all of this effectively, use technology to start directing people. Once you make the job so easy that even an idiot can do it effectively, that you lower your cost and you can give better reliability in the service that you're offering. So these are the broad building blocks of a e-commerce company. There is demand, there's inventory sourcing, fulfillment, demand discovery and demand generation are different pieces. So what we are doing is this is an internal map that we have created to create our thinking on what we see are the building blocks or the moving parts in a typical supply chain in the e-commerce space. And I think we have reached a scale and a point in our company where doing everything in-house doesn't really make sense. So we are building out partnerships in all of these critical areas to be able to offer a complete service to anybody who wants to go online. On the express piece, this is where the maximum investment that we are going to make in the next 1 to 2 years. The express business and the fulfillment, logistics is the core focus area. You're looking at next generation smart sort, setting up these fundamental basic conveyor warehouses. We have just recently signed up a 50,000 square feet space at the Delhi airport. This is going to be India's largest hub in terms of the sort capabilities and the throughput that is available. New generation vehicle, if you look at what exists out there, in India still the focus for even, and we are also guilty of this crime, that if you want to scale or if you want to build capacity, you just bring in more people, right? And that doesn't really give you that's not a scalable model, especially if you're looking at going from 250 branches to 1000 branches, the sort complexity involved and the amount of manual work that goes in, it will just not be possible to scale further beyond that point. So we sort of looked at what the other countries who are maybe 5 to 10 years ahead of us are doing, and so in China there is SF Express, there is Quangfeng. These are two big market leaders who have really pivoted and built their entire supply chain around e-commerce. They power the supply chain for Alibaba, and they have this very unique vehicle which is electric powered. It's it's smaller than a rickshaw, but it is 3-wheeler. So effectively what it gives you is the ability to deliver a much larger number of parcels. If you look at the typical cost structure, the biker on the field is really the biggest operating expense that we do as a company, and even if 100 rupee reduction in a monthly cost over there can impact my bottom line by 0.3% of revenue, which is just phenomenal. I mean, 100 rupee swing, it's almost like saying that I won't give you attendance bonus, right? And at that point, what we realize is that how do you increase the productivity of this man on the street? How do you make his life better? And today they are carrying these big bulky bags. It's unhealthy, it's hazardous, it's risky, and it's not sustainable. So what we are looking at is building these, either partnering with somebody to build out these new generation vehicles, which allow somebody to deliver. Today if they are delivering 20 or 30 parcels a day, this can effectively take that number to 80 a day. Big data. So all our technology is built in-house. It is built on shared resources, scalable hardware. We don't own a single server today. It's all using cloud computing. So cloud computing and big data are fairly different. Big data is the ability to mine data really well to take intelligent business decisions. We delivered 7.8 million shipments in the last quarter. So effectively, the kind of data that we are sitting on, the consumer behavior of India is effectively available to us in the best possible manner. We can quickly identify pockets where to set up a store for kids, where to set up a store for sports goods. Those kind of lot of creative plays possible with the data that is available. We also collect a lot of data of the bikers, so the amount of traffic information available, GIS mapping. So that's a separate business division that we have set up again about 8 months ago. Electronic identity authentication, this is effectively the ability to provide APIs to seamlessly integrate with e-commerce companies. Internet of Things, these are the devices, the smartwatches, there's a lot of new devices which are coming out which make our lives better, and you combine these with a typical field biker's day, the typical process at the airport, the process in a branch. You use RFID over here, and what you are seeing is the ability to make things faster without adding more people. This is again the piece where, in terms of what we are setting up, the largest capexes that we are doing, the India's largest hub that I mentioned. There are automated sortation systems that we are also setting up at other metros in India. These are smaller, slightly smaller facilities. All of these systems are completely designed by our own in-house engineering team. So what we believe is that the specifications, you can always, the best way is to do it by outsourcing it to an engineering expert. But we sort of had taken a decision to in-house this ability, because beyond a certain scale, it is the engineering of the network that is the core competence of the business. And therefore, we today have a 10-member engineering team which is just building out the design, the schematics, and any new facility that gets set up is engineered for about a 2 to 3 month time period before we go out and execute. In terms of the software, there is the proprietary WMS, which integrated with the proprietary last mile delivery system gives an end-to-end view to the customer from the time he places an order. This WMS is also integrated with the conveyor belts that we are setting up at the warehouses to allow for how do you sort of stock a million different SKUs in a single facility. Amazon has a typical size of an Amazon warehouse in the US today is more than 500,000 square feet space, right? If you want to really run facilities of that size, you really need to, they have miles of conveyor belts in these facilities, and to be able to move goods to pinpoint exactly where what item is, you need those kind of systems. So this is something that we have been building out for the last 1.5 years. Effectively, what we are doing is we are creating the e-commerce market of the future through integrated and easy to use technology, world-class infrastructure that enables us to be the fastest to fulfill with the highest efficiency. Right. So that's the basic thesis of how we operate what we do. Coming to your question, how does a typical flow in the fulfillment center work, right? So I think that's the brief of the presentation.